It's the hint of mint in the chocolates that makes new mingles
You got the chocolate?
so massively Moorish.
No, Lisa, have them.
You just can't eat a single mingle.
Part of ITV1, this is Carlton, and in 35 minutes we're back in Bulwood Hall Prison to check on the real bad girls. Now the ITV News with John Suchet.
The English fireman helping to save lives in Bali. Old Bailey sensation as the Burrell trial is halted. England embarrassed as seaman slips up again. And the curious case of Ulrika's reversible top.
The ITV News with John Suchet.
Good evening. From the destroyed buildings and destroyed lives of the bombed-out Bali nightclub, one story tonight of hope and of heroism. It centres on a fireman from Hertfordshire who was on holiday on the island when he heard that disaster had struck. With holiday on hold, Russell Ward has spent the last 4 days helping with the rescue and saving lives, keeping one girl alive by massaging her heart for 2 hours. Adrian Britton has this exclusive report.
Amid the often chaotic scenes to clear the bomb site in search of more bodies, the story of this British fireman exceeds duty expected. Russell Ward came to Bali on holiday with his girlfriend, but when the bombs went off, tourism gave way to his deep-rooted instinct to save life.
I couldn't sit on the beach and not do nothing, you know. I feel too bad, I couldn't. So holiday finished, work to do.
It's been a medical emergency put out on TV for any volunteers to come and assist at the hospital.
This was the video he recorded en route from hotel to hospital. At Bali airport he filmed the emergency evacuation of the injured, pictures never seen before. Australian and Indonesian medics tending to the seriously burnt. Stretcher after stretcher, they're carried out to a convoy of Hercules aircraft to be flown to Darwin in Australia. I returned to the scene of the explosions with Russell, but even surveying the club where so many young people were burnt alive, he refuses to lose his faith in humanity.
There's people there with limbs missing that want to be evacuated, and they're saying to the doctors, take that person, they're worse. You know, and I just can't explain it.
It was at the airport makeshift hospital where he undoubtedly saved the life of an Australian woman called Jodie. Medics had given up all hope. She had appalling burns and was to lose a leg. But Russell spent 2 hours ventilating her by hand until she regained consciousness.
If she made it, it's a miracle, and I know, I can't explain it. I know Jodie's going to make it, you know. It made me cry.
That's the thought that goes through you, is it, when you're doing that? That you know they're going to make it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's too many people. You can't grasp it. So somehow you focus emotionally on one person, you know. I'm going to go and find Jodie one day, yeah. So, yeah.
So you did save her?
Yeah, along with the medical teams and everyone else involved. Big team effort, the military, flying her out, getting her where she needs to get and so on, you know. But unfortunately, you know, this sort of 16-year-old girl dies on this flight, you know, so...
His girlfriend, Melanie, has spent the holiday alone by the hotel pool. They're due to fly home on Sunday. No one is surprised. Russell intends to stay on. Adrian Britton, ITV News, Bali.
And an update on the girl Russell Ward helped to save, Jodie Cairns, who was airlifted out of Bali, and she's now being treated in the burns unit of a hospital in Perth in Western Australia. The leader of the Islamic extremist group blamed by Australia for the attack insisted today they had nothing to do with it. Abu Bakr Bashir praised Osama bin Laden when he spoke to ITV News today, but he told our correspondent Julian Mannion it was stupid to say he carried out the attack.
If this is the man who organised the Bali bombing, he is putting on a brazen performance. Surrounded by his mujahideen, this is Abu Bakr Bashir, a militant Muslim cleric who today came to the Indonesian capital to deny that he is linked to terrorism. In his home region, Bashir runs a school for young Muslims which teaches the virtues of holy war. His friends proclaim that if defending Islam is terrorism, then they are all terrorists. The US government says these people are dangerous, and after Bali wants the Indonesian government to arrest Bashir.
Did you or any member of your group carry out the attack on the Sari nightclub in Bali?
This is a stupid allegation. There are no facts to back it up. It's just an emotional accusation.
Time magazine has claimed that Bashir is linked to Al-Qaeda. Today, Bashir set out for a Jakarta court to launch a libel action. He walked into a media frenzy, not surprising perhaps when he's openly declared his admiration for Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden is one of God's soldiers who truly wants to defend Islam.
It is very far from clear if Abu Bakr Bashir had any involvement in the Bali bomb. So far, no firm evidence whatsoever has been presented. But it is certain that he is doing everything possible to use this moment to publicize his movement, and he's likely to be at the center of international concern for some time to come. The Indonesian government says that Bashir will be questioned in the next few days and will be arrested if any terrorist links are established. Bashir's reaction was a laugh. Julian Mannion, ITV News, Jakarta.
Here, the high-profile trial of Paul Burrell, Princess Diana's butler, shuddered to a halt today at the Old Bailey. On day 3, and in the middle of evidence from the first witness, the judge dismissed the jury. For legal reasons, we're not allowed to say why. A new jury has already been sworn in. From the Bailey, here's Colin Baker.
Paul Burrell came to the Old Bailey expecting, like everyone else, that day 3 of his trial on theft charges would continue as normal. It wasn't to be. In a surprise move, the jury trying him was discharged for legal reasons, and Mr. Burrell's new trial, it's hoped, will commence tomorrow morning. There was an air of tension inside number 1 court as the judge, Mrs. Justice Rafferty, and the barristers took their places. The packed courtroom sat in silence with Paul Burrell in the glass-fronted dock, today dressed in a dark suit with purple shirt and matching tie. After listening to both prosecution and defence barristers' conversations, the judge then called the jury in after lunch and told them that they were now being discharged for legal reasons. The court was then adjourned before a new jury could be sworn in. Mr. Burrell faces 3 counts of theft from the Prince and Princess of Wales and from Prince William. The new trial, it's hoped, will get underway tomorrow. Once again, it must be stressed that the decision taken by Mrs. Justice Rafferty in court number 1 this afternoon was by no means unusual. The reasons behind it, well, they may become clear at the conclusion of the new trial. Colin Baker, ITV News at the Old Bailey.
Washington police made it clear today they are still nowhere in the hunt for the serial sniper. They took the unusual step of giving tips to the public, a very worried public, on how to collect evidence. They have some clues but can't make any headway, as Robert Moore reports.
The gunman has been killing now for 2 weeks, and he is still on the loose, despite a frantic and frustrating manhunt involving thousands of police. Even the CIA and the US military are involved. Airborne surveillance aircraft are being flown over Washington with infrared capabilities that can track suspect vehicles at night. Unmanned Predator drones were also considered for use, but they are reportedly fully deployed overseas. Around the capital, the anxiety remains palpable, especially at petrol stations and in car parks, locations the sniper has repeatedly chosen for his attacks.
It's definitely nerve-wracking. It's like getting gas has turned into an extreme sport.
You are feeling anxious, pumping your own gas?
Very, yes. I don't feel comfortable at all.
The hunt is bogged down in deeply conflicting eyewitness accounts. Not even a profile or photo fit of the killer is being circulated. Bureaucratic confusion may also be a factor. At least 15 agencies, ranging from the Secret Service and the FBI to different local and state police, are all involved in the investigation. But one firearms instructor said only other trained snipers could hope to understand the serial killer's movements.
You bring a hunter in to catch a hunter, so they brought in their snipers and they're scoping out terrain. But the only problem with this guy, doesn't have any set pattern except for a random pattern.
Firearms experts believe the sniper may well be firing from a weapon like this. They also suspect he is an excellent marksman and almost certainly using a telescopic sight. For investigators, that's a major problem because the sniper may be firing on his victims from 200 or even 300 meters away.
That accuracy and the killer's cunning in eluding the manhunt has left the investigation in crisis, amid deep fears of where and when he will strike next. Robert Moore, ITV News, Maryland.
There's more to come on the ITV News, including Anne Diamond calls for a new campaign to cut cot death. Seaman blunders again. Has he played his last game for England? And why was Ulrika wearing a back-to-front blouse? Those stories and more when we come back.
In the 120 years since Thomas Edison invented General Electric, we've helped shed light on many of man's greatest discoveries. GE. We bring good things to life.
A chicken dipper relay. Ready, gang? Action food packed with tender chicken breast for a cracking prize.
Start the timer!
Go-karts, go! Go! Sliders ready! Trapdoor opens any second, gang! Chicken dippers for nippy nippers! Who wants to go again? Timber time!
4, 54. 3 and 8, 38.
12.
5
I only
and
need
2.
12. Concentrate, please. 1 and 2.
1 and 2, 12.
Gala pay out over £18 million every week. What are you waiting for?
27, please.
Hey, girls! Cheers! Here, Bess, you want one? There you go.
It's the hint of mint in the chocolates that makes new Ingles
So you got the chocolate?
so massively Moorish.
No, there's the hubba.
You just can't eat a single mingle.
If I had my way, there'd be no such thing as pigeons. The stuff would, like, tidy itself. I'd like to ban beards. And cats. I'd like cats to get even.
With Orange, you can have things your way, because now you can build your own talk, text and photo package. That way you get more of what you want and less of what you don't.
Not so long ago, I'd have been considered an incurable romantic.
This woman is trying to prevent a fragile environment being destroyed by the search for oil and gas. She wants to preserve an area of outstanding natural beauty for future generations and protect the local culture from the shock of the new.
We believe it's possible to provide the energy the planet needs without ignoring the needs of the planet.
Despite this, she's not at war with the oil company. She is the oil company.
Welcome back. The television presenter Anne Diamond tonight called for a new government campaign with advice on avoiding cot death. Her baby son Sebastian was a victim of cot death 11 years ago. A survey out today suggests many of the lessons learned from her earlier campaigning have been forgotten. Our medical editor Lawrence McGuinty looks at its findings.
Cot death is comparatively rare, but there are few things more tragic.
10 years ago, Anne Diamond was the face of the government's campaign on cot deaths. It worked. They fell by 70%. But today, Anne, whose son Sebastian died in his cot 11 years ago, says it's sinful that the message hasn't got through to many new mothers.
We've got to do more. People have clearly been allowed to become complacent about it. You have to keep reiterating the message because every year you've got new generations of young mums and dads and they need to be told the message again and again. And if we need another government campaign, then we've got to start calling for one now.
The Department of Health's advice on reducing the risk of cot deaths is to put babies to sleep on their backs. The survey found 33% of parents didn't know that. Babies should be placed with their feet at the foot of the cot. 41% of parents didn't know that. And covers should be tucked in. More than half of the parents surveyed didn't know that either. These mothers in a Leeds hospital are aware of the government's advice, but today's survey shows many new parents aren't.
When parents and grandparents pass on information that they've received, you sometimes take that as the best means and best advice, but it's not necessarily so as times change.
The science is now clear, but many mothers are still confused.
There's a lot of conflicting advice out there. People are always wanting to offer you advice and it's not always right.
Still, 10 years after Anne Diamond's campaign, 7 babies a week die suddenly in their cots. Perhaps it's time for a new campaign to save even more young lives. Lawrence McGuinty, ITV News.
It all went wrong for England's footballers tonight in what should have been an easy match against Macedonia. Their European qualifier ended 2-2. David Seaman was once again all at sea when a corner went straight in over his head. From Southampton, here's Felicity Barr.
Fans arriving at St Mary's Stadium were hoping to see plenty of goals, but no one expected to witness England's humiliation at the hands of Macedonia. It was a terrible error by David Seaman which saw England concede the early goal. The 38-year-old keeper simply didn't move fast enough to keep out Artem Sakiri's corner. Seaman's confidence was shaken and he knew his international future was once again a matter for debate. Within 3 minutes England were level, Paul Scholes setting up David Beckham, but the relief didn't last long. Another defensive error, this time Sol Campbell's weak clearance fell for Vanko Trianov. The Macedonians could hardly believe their luck. But back came England, Steven Gerrard producing a superb volley to level the match again. The frantic pace continued after the break, with England creating chance after chance. Even the ice-cool coach showed his frustration. At the final whistle, Macedonia celebrated the greatest result in their history, but Seaman may have played his last game for England. His latest error so similar to that World Cup blunder against Brazil. His critics believe his time is up. Felicity Barr, ITV News.
Well, if that was depressing, the result of Wales's match against Italy was anything but. They won 2-1 in front of an ecstatic Cardiff crowd. Graham Miller watched the match.
A full house, the stadium roof closed, a brave new world's in prospect for Ryan Giggs and his fellow Welshmen. After years of embarrassment at international level, this squad has real hopes of qualifying for the finals, and Simon Davis deservedly put them ahead. Great finish against the former world champions. But Italy struck back. Alessandro Del Piero's free kick, though the replay showed a deflection off Mark Delaney. If that was unlucky, so was this. Giggs' free kick hit nothing but the bar and wouldn't go in. 1-1 at half-time and they felt hard done by. But Wales kept their composure, John Hartson kept his head and Craig Bellamy kept Wales' marvellous run going with the winner. A famous night for Welsh football. 2 played, 2 wins for cool coach Mark Hughes. Graham Miller, ITV News.
In tonight's other European Championship games, Northern Ireland drew 0-0 against Ukraine in Belfast and the Irish Republic lost 2-1 to Switzerland. In a few minutes, the reversal of fortune for Ulrika Johnson's dress at last night's TV Awards. First, your local news.
Good evening, I'm Kavita Maharaj, and these are the main stories in London tonight. The government has apologised to the family of a Hertfordshire man killed in the Bali bomb attacks. John Elwood's brother Tobias was appalled by the red tape that's preventing him bringing his brother's body home. Meanwhile, the parents of Emma Fox paid tribute to their daughter, today confirmed among the dead. Simon Harris reports.
Another family left with memories and an overwhelming sense of numbness. Andrea Shearman and her husband Peter from Pinner in Middlesex had feared the worst, and today it looked certain. Andrea's daughter, Emma Fox, a marketing manager for Nestle, was on holiday in Bali with a school friend. Emma is dead. The friend is still missing.
I just cannot understand what sort of pleasure people get out of murdering innocent youngsters that are just out to enjoy themselves.
In Bali today, a scene of unimaginable horror for grieving relatives. Rows of body bags in an open-air mortuary, barely even chilled by small sacks of ice. For a Hertfordshire man trying to identify his brother, it could hardly have been worse. But it was. The authorities didn't want to know. Tobias Elwood pleaded to be allowed to see his brother John, a lecturer killed while on leave from his teaching job in Vietnam.
Initially, it was actually the police, the British police, didn't want us to do that. They wanted to leave it for the DNA. I insisted I wanted to do this, and I went we eventually managed to get ourselves into the morgue, and yes, I ended up the bag, and I was able to positively identify my brother.
In stark contrast to the bureaucratic nightmare facing British relatives, Australia's bereaved have the support of an army of diplomats, police officers, pathologists and government officials. The British have to make do with a part-time honorary consul who runs a restaurant, aided by volunteers.
We really do need to see a couple of British Land Rovers with Union Jacks flying, guiding people and helping people understand what's going on.
The Foreign Office says its staff are doing all they can, but admits there are problems. Tonight, a government minister is on her way to Bali, and she had this message for John Elwood's brother.
Can I say how very sorry I am to Mr. Elwood? It is a very difficult situation. We have a team of volunteers, we have reinforced our consular team out there, and of course we have a number of people from the Metropolitan Police who are assisting us. But you can appreciate it is a very difficult scene.
No one will be hoping things improve more than Andrea Shearman as she prepares to fly out to Bali to bring her daughter home. This is Simon Harris for London Tonight.
In a landmark decision, a former nurse has won damages of more than £400,000 for hurting her back while working at an East London hospital. She blamed her injury on shortages of staff and equipment at Newham General. This report from Phil Bales.
Ward sister Angela Knott makes legal history. A nurse awarded over £400,000 for injuries caused through lifting patients. Newham General Hospital, a judge heard, had pitiful levels of nursing. On Mrs. Knott's section, they had to lift patients weighing up to 12 stones because there was only one hoist between two wards. Over several years, she says, this caused her serious injuries.
I had a disc prolapse. I was only 31. It was just horrendous. It was awful. I can't have children now because of my back problems. I've had 2 serious spinal operations, which were quite horrible. I mean, I'm a lot better now. I've worked really hard to get myself fit, but my nursing career is gone now.
Nurses throughout London have been watching this case, particularly any who've left the profession through injury. It's a groundbreaking judgment because Mrs. Knott didn't have a specific accident. Her lawyers believe many more nurses could sue.
Most nurses' back injuries in the NHS are the result of continual heavy lifting day in, day out. They don't have specific accidents, and so we hope that this will give the opportunity for justice for other nurses in the NHS.
It took Angela Knott over 4 years to win her case. If others follow, it could be an extremely costly victory for the cash-strapped NHS. At the High Court, this is Phil Bales for London Tonight.
Two men have been jailed for 8 years each for killing a teenage lap dancer during a bungled robbery at her home in southeast London. The body of Adele Hamilton was found by her father at her home in Forest Hill in July last year. Christopher Howell and Orlando Francis both admitted manslaughter and conspiracy to rob. 19-year-old Crystal Wilby, a school friend of Adele's, was convicted of conspiracy to rob. She'll be sentenced next month. And finally, one of sport's best-dressed men shocked the follicle fashion world when he revealed his new look on London Tonight. David Ginola, he of the famously worth it locks, tonight decided he needed a new look. The ex-Tottenham man, in a spur-of-the-moment decision, opted to stop off at an East End barber for a capital new bonnet.
No, I was just a bit fed up about, maybe stop playing football, change the look.